The rain-slicked streets of Boston gleamed under the sodium lamps like veins pulsing with the city's hidden heartaches. And I slammed the car door just as thunder cracked the sky open, my backpack slung over one shoulder like a shield against the storm. "You're late," he said, his voice cutting through the downpour from the porch. Not angry but laced with that quiet command that made my pulse stutter. Mr. Elias Hawthorne, the man who'd promised to mold me into something more than the scared kid from Southie hiding his truths. But as I stepped inside, dripping and defiant, his eyes met mine in the foyer light, and in that split second, I saw it. Not the mentor I'd idolized, but a mirror of my own buried longing, shattering everything I thought I knew. I wiped the rain from my face with the sleeve of my hoodie, the scent of aged leather and polished oak hitting me like a memory I didn't own yet. Elias, God, even thinking his name felt like trespassing, stood there in his crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbows, revealing forearms corded with the quiet strength of someone who'd built an empire from nothing. He was 42 or so, the university bio said, a self-made tech mogul who'd traded Silicon Valley flash for Boston's old money restraint, but up close, he looked timeless, like a storm cloud wrapped in silk. "Sorry?" I muttered, my voice smaller than I wanted. Traffic was a nightmare. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the truth either. The truth was I'd sat in my beat-up Civic for 10 minutes outside his brownstone, heart hammering, wondering if I could really do this. Show up for piano practice, as he called it in that cryptic email, when what I craved was something far more dangerous. He didn't smile, not right away, just tilted his head and gestured toward the living room, where a grand Steinway waited like a throne under the chandelier's glow. I'd found him through the university's mentorship program 6 months back, a desperate Hail Mary after my scholarship nearly slipped away because of my distractions, as my advisor put it. Distractions. Code for the rumors that followed me like shadows, the whispers in the dorms about the quiet guy from the wrong side of town who stared too long at the lacrosse captain. Elias had seen my application, my essay on how music saved me from the bottle my old man drowned in, and he'd replied within hours. "Let's see if I can help you refine that gift. Practice at my place, Saturdays at 7. No excuses." It was supposed to be simple lessons from a donor who'd studied under some Juilliard ghost, a chance to pad my portfolio for grad school. But nothing about him felt simple. As I shrugged off my jacket, water pooling at my feet on the Persian rug, he crossed his arms and leaned against the doorframe. "You play like you're fighting the keys, Alex. Last recital video you sent? It was raw but sloppy, like you don't trust the music or yourself." His words landed like a hook to the gut, precise and unflinching. I flinched, heat rising in my cheeks, because he was right. I'd been fighting everything. The ache in my chest that no amount of scales could drown out, the way my roommate's casual arm around my shoulder made me freeze up inside. "I trust it fine," I shot back, dropping my bag by the piano bench. Life's not a concert hall." He chuckled then, low and warm, like bourbon over ice, and stepped closer, close enough that I caught the faint cedar of his cologne. "Life's the messiest symphony there is. See, let's see if we can find the rhythm in yours." The first notes I played that night were hesitant, Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat, my fingers slipping on the damp keys like they were greased with my own nerves. Elias didn't sit. He paced the room, a shadow in tailored slacks, murmuring corrections that felt more like confessions. "Softer here. Let it breathe, Alex. You're holding back, like the sound might break you if you let it loose." By the 10th bar, sweat beaded on my neck despite the chill, and I stopped, palms flat on the ivories. "What is this really about? You could have emailed notes. Why drag me out here every week?" He paused mid-stride, his gaze locking on mine, and for a heartbeat, the air thickened, charged like the storm outside. "Because some things," he said softly, "you can't learn from a screen, and I see potential in you, not just the notes, but the fire behind them. The kind that could burn this whole city down if you let it." We played for hours, or maybe it was minutes. Time blurred in that room, with rain lashing the windows like applause. He took over once, his hands ghosting over mine to guide a trill, and the contact sent a jolt through me, electric and forbidden. I pulled away too fast, mumbling about needing water, and fled to the kitchen, where marble counters gleamed under recessed lights. He followed, leaning on the island as I gulped from a glass, his eyes never leaving me. "You're good, kid. Better than good. But you're scared." The word hung there raw as an exposed wire. Scared. Of the scholarship board sniffing out my lifestyle. Of my ma finding those dog-eared novels under my bed. Of the way his voice wrapped around my name like a promise. Of what? I challenged, though I knew. He stepped closer, not touching, but the space between us hummed. Of wanting more than survival. Of letting someone see the real score. That was the hook that snagged me. The first thread unraveling the safe little lie I'd spun for 22 years. By midnight, the storm had eased to a drizzle, and he walked me to the door, his hand brushing my shoulder. Accidental, maybe, but it lingered in my skin like a brand. "Same time next week," he said, and I nodded, stepping into the night feeling cracked open. The city's lights smearing into constellations of what-ifs. Little did I know, that touch was the prelude to a crescendo that would shatter us both. The weeks blurred into a ritual that felt dangerously like addiction. Saturday evenings crossing the Charles River Bridge, the skyline's jagged teeth biting into the dusk, my Civic rattling like my resolve. Elias's brownstone became a sanctuary, all high ceilings and walls lined with first editions. Hemingway dog-eared, Baldwin underlined in fading ink, whispering of a man who'd clawed his way from Queen's foster homes to Forbes lists. He never talked about it, not directly, but the scars showed in flashes. A pause when I mentioned my old man's benders, the way he'd pour scotch neat but sip it slow, like savoring a wound. Our lessons evolved or devolved depending on how you sliced it. We'd start with Bach fugues, his voice a steady metronome over my stumbles, but inevitably, the music would fracture into talk. Late-night confessions traded like contraband. "I was like you once," he admitted one evening, as October leaves scratched at the panes like impatient lovers. We were side by side on the bench, shoulders brushing, my rendition of Debussy's Clair de Lune hanging unfinished in the air. Hiding in plain sight. Tech saved me. Numbers don't judge, but it doesn't fill the quiet. His fingers traced an idle arpeggio on the silent keys, close enough to mine that I could feel the heat. I swallowed hard, the room spinning with unsaid things. "And now? You seem solid." He laughed, bitter as black coffee. "Solid's just a nicer word for lonely, Alex. Built my castle, but forgot the drawbridge. I wanted to bridge it, God help me." That night, as we wrapped up, he pulled a bottle from the sideboard. Some rare single malt, amber as regret, and poured us shots, the liquid burning a path straight to truths I'd buried. "To the fire," he toasted, clinking glasses, and I echoed it, the warmth spreading like permission. We talked until the clock struck 11. About the boys who'd ghosted me after stolen kisses in frat house bathrooms. About the mentor who'd propositioned him at Stanford and left him questioning every handshake after. "Betrayal's the sharpest key," he said, eyes distant. "Cuts deeper than silence." I nodded, my thigh pressing against his under the table, neither of us moving away. When I left, the air between us crackled, a live wire waiting for the spark. By November, the practices weren't about piano anymore. They were about us, peeling back layers in the glow of that Steinway. He'd cook after. Seared scallops with lemon zest, served on the sun porch overlooking the garden, where fairy lights twinkled like stars we'd stolen. "You're starving yourself, kid," he'd say, plating extra, and I'd protest but eat, the domesticity wrapping around me like a spell. One night, snow flurrying past the windows, we abandoned the keys for the couch, a bottle of Cabernet loosening our guards. I confessed the scholarship panic, how the committee had pulled me aside, hinted at discretion if I wanted their nod. His jaw tightened, veins standing out like rivers on a map. "They're dinosaurs, Alex, but they hold the gates. You fight dirty or you don't fight at all." His hand found my knee then, deliberate, squeezing once before retreating. "You've got the fight in you. I see it." That touch lingered through the week, haunting my dorm shifts at the library, where I'd shelve books on queer theory with trembling hands. Was this mentorship or madness? Elias texted sparingly, "Nailed that list? Or weather's turning? Drive safe." but each ping felt like a breadcrumb leading deeper into the woods. I started dreaming of him. Hands on keys morphing to hands on skin, his voice murmuring scores against my neck. Waking tangled in sheets, I'd cursed the dawn, but Saturday pulled me back like gravity. The shift came mid-December, the city blanketed in that crisp white that makes Boston feel like a snow globe of secrets. I'd aced a midterm, buoyed by his offhand proud of you email, and arrived early, armed with a bottle of mid-shelf bourbon as thanks. He opened the door in a sweater that hugged his frame, gray cashmere soft as a sigh, and pulled me into a hug, brief, but bone deep. Get in here before you freeze. The piano waited, but we bypassed it for the firelit den, where logs crackled like laughter. We drank, talked shop, his latest app launch, my symphony audition looming, and then, as the flames danced shadows across his face, he leaned in. Alex, it's more than lessons, isn't it? My heart seized, the room narrowing to his eyes, dark and searching. I nodded, words failing, and he closed the gap, his lips brushing mine tentative as a first chord. It was chaste, that kiss, soft, exploratory, tasting of smoke and possibility, but it unlocked something feral in me. We pulled back gasping, foreheads touching, his breath ragged. I've wanted that since your first fumbled scale, he whispered, thumb tracing my jaw. But I won't push. You're the student. I'm the fool who should know better. I laughed, shaky, and kissed him again, deeper, the world tilting on its axis. We didn't go further. Not then, tangled in that delicious ache of restraint, but we stayed up till dawn, mapping each other with words and glances, the piano forgotten sentinel in the hall. Christmas break loomed like a guillotine. My ma's summons to Southie a reminder of the chasm between worlds. Elias drove me to the station the next day, his hand on the gearshift inches from mine. Come back soon, he said at the curb, voice rough. This isn't over. I nodded, boarding the train with his taste on my lips, the skyline receding like a dream I wasn't ready to wake from. But as the wheels clacked rhythmically, a seed of doubt took root. What if this was just another rich man's whim, a dalliance to spice his solitude? I shoved it down, focusing on the melody we'd hummed together that morning, a private refrain of hope. Little did I know the real discord was just tuning up. January thawed the snow into slushy rivers snaking through Cambridge streets, but the heat between Elias and me burned steady, a counterpoint to the winter chill. Back from break, ma's suspicious squint over turkey leftovers notwithstanding, I dove into our Saturdays with the fervor of a convert. The brownstone felt like home now, its creaks familiar as my own heartbeat. We'd play, yes, Rachmaninoff concertos that left my fingers aching, but the music was foreplay, building to those stolen hours on the couch or by the fire, where kisses deepened into explorations of breath and boundary. He was patient, achingly so, his touches reverent as if I were a score he'd memorized but feared to play aloud. Tell me what you need, he'd murmur against my collarbone, hands framing my face, and I'd stammer half-truths, terrified of the vulnerability. Gay in Boston wasn't the death sentence it might have been in Southie Dives. But for me, it was still a closet with splinters. Elias got it, he'd lived it. I came out at 35, he confessed one night, as we lay tangled under a throw blanket, city lights filtering through blinds like Morse code. After my partner, ex-whatever, bailed when the money rolled in, said I was too ambitious for us, left me with a loft full of echoes. His voice cracked on the last word, and I held him then, first time I'd been the anchor, his head on my chest as sobs shook us both. You're not alone anymore? I whispered, meaning it fiercer than I'd felt anything. Our rhythm solidified. Lessons laced with laughter, dinners of takeout Thai on the sun porch, lazy Sundays when he'd coax me into staying over, platonic sleeps in guest rooms, but charged with the promise of more. He pushed me toward the audition, drilling etudes till I bled precision, but it was his belief that sharpened me. You're a force, Alex. Don't let fear mute you. And God, I bloomed under it, my playing soaring, notes ringing with the joy I'd starved for. But harmony breeds its own shadows. Whispers started at school. A classmate spotting my Civic parked too long outside his place, eyebrows raised in the practice room. Hawthorne's pet project, huh? Careful, kid. Those types collect strays. I brushed it off, but it gnawed, especially when Elias's assistant, a sharp-eyed woman named Lena, began screening my calls with frosty efficiency. He's in meetings, she'd say, though I heard the subtext. Stay in your lane. Elias waved it away over pasta one night, twirling linguine with casual grace. Jealousy's her default. Ignore it. But his phone buzzed incessantly. Investors, board calls, and I'd catch him staring at screens, jaw set, the mogul eclipsing the man. The first real fracture came in February, Valentine's shadow creeping like fog off the harbor. He'd planned a surprise. Tickets to a Philharmonic gala, black tie under crystal chandeliers at Symphony Hall. I balked. Tuxes weren't in my budget, and crowds made my skin crawl. But he insisted, delivering a slim garment bag to my dorm with a note. Wear this. Let me show you off. The suit fit like it was tailored for my soul, charcoal while hugging my frame. And that night, stepping into his chauffeured town car, I felt transformed. Not the Southie scrapper, but someone worthy. The gala was a whirlwind. Champagne flutes clinking like ice in old scotch, donors and pearls and cufflinks eyeing us with polite curiosity. Elias navigated it like a maestro, arm loose around my waist in photos, his pride a tangible warmth. You clean up lethal. He teased in my ear during intermission, breath hot, and I melted, stealing a kiss in a shadowed alcove, the orchestra's swell masking our gasps. It was perfect, until his ex appeared, gliding through the crowd like a specter in bespoke Armani. Javier. Tall, olive-skinned, with a smile that cut like glass. Elias, darling. He purred, air-kissing cheeks, his gaze sliding to me like oil on water. New muse? How quaint. Elias stiffened, grip tightening on his flute. Alex, Javier. Old acquaintance. The word dripped acid, and Javier laughed, low and knowing. Acquaintance? After 5 years? You're breaking hearts again, mi amor. He lingered, regaling us with tales of their Napa getaways, the loft I'd heard echoes of, his hand brushing Elias's arm with proprietary ease. I stood there, champagne turning sour in my gut, the alcove's magic souring to ash. We left early, the car ride silent as a dirge. Back at the brownstone, he poured scotch, neat, and paced the den. He's nothing, a ghost playing catch-up. But his eyes betrayed him, haunted, flickering with old fires. He left when the stakes got real, Alex. When I chose the company over weekends in the vineyard. I wanted to believe it, crossed the room to pull him close, but doubt had rooted. And me? Am I the rebound? The scholarship charity case? The words escaped before I could cage them, sharp as a wrong note. He recoiled, hurt flashing raw. Is that what you think? Christ, Alex, you're the first real thing since. He stopped, raking hands through his hair. I don't collect. I invest. In you. We made up in the firelight, apologies woven into kisses, but the crack lingered, a hairline fracture in our score. Javier's shadow followed. Texts to Elias I glimpsed. Miss the old days? Dinner? And Lena's chill deepened, her emails to me clipped. Mr. Hawthorne's schedule is tight. Paranoia bloomed. Was I the secret, or the fool? Yet the pull was magnetic. His laugh over burnt toast Sundays, the way he'd hum my audition piece while shaving, foam-flecked and vulnerable. March brought the audition, a beast-eyed tamed with his coaching. Symphony Hall again, but this time the stage was mine, lights blinding as judges loomed like gods. Fingers flew. Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, third movement a torrent, and I poured us into it. The fear, the fire, the fragile hope. Applause crashed like waves, and backstage, Elias waited, bouquet in hand, pulling me into a crush of pride and promise. You were incandescent, he breathed, and in that green room, with stagehands bustling past, we claimed a victory kiss, deep and defiant. But victory's a double-edged blade. News spread. My win splashed in the student paper with a photo of us from the gala, caption speculating, Hawthorne's protege shines. The committee called the next day, voices oily. Impressive, Mr. O'Connor, but associations matter. Discretion. Remember? Panic clawed me, but Elias was steel. Screw them. We'll fight. He looped in his lawyers, prepping appeals, but the stress etched lines around his eyes. Javier's calls spiking like bad omens. I ignored the warnings, dove deeper. Weekends at his Cape Cod retreat. Salt air and sandy walks where we'd talk futures. Vague but vivid. Me composing. Him funding indies for queer artists. Build something real, he'd say, hand in mine. But reality intruded. A board meeting he bailed on our dinner for, arriving hollow-eyed at midnight. Investors are circling, he muttered, collapsing beside me. One slip, and it all unravels. I held him, but the mogul's armor was thickening, our intimacy fraying at the edges. The betrayal brewed slow, a dissonant chord building to crash. It hit on a rainy April Friday, me arriving unannounced with sheet music for a duet we joked about. The door was ajar, Lena's oversight, and voices drifted from the den. Elias's, low and urgent, Javier's silken counterpoint. You can't deny it, Elias. That boy's a liability. Scholarship scandals? The board's already whispering. A pause. Then Elias. He's not a boy, and it's none of your. Javier cut in, laugh cruel. Business? It is when you're tanking our stock with puppy love. Come back to us. Remember who made you. Silence stretched. Then Elias's voice. Defeated. I need time. Just buy me some. I froze in the foyer, heart a staccato dirge. The music slipping from numb fingers to the floor. Buy me some. Like I was a stock to short. I fled before they emerged. Rain masking tears. The bridge lights blurring into accusations. How long had this been the score? Mentorship masking maneuver. Kisses a diversion? Back in my dorm, I curled fetal. The city's hum mocking my shatter. Text from him lit my phone. Where are you? Practice? And I typed go to hell, deleting it for sick. Rain check. But the check bounced in my soul. Days bled into avoidance. Emails dodged. Calls silenced. He cornered me at a donor event, pulling me into a coat room reeking of wool and regret. Alex talked to me. What happened? His eyes searched, desperate, but I was ice. Overheard your chat with the ghost. Buy me some time? Classy. Horror dawned on his face, crumbling the facade. That wasn't. Javier twisted it. He's pushing a merger using you as leverage. I told him to fuck off. Lies? Truth? The fracture widened. Leverage. Nice. Am I your redemption arc or your PR nightmare? He reached, but I jerked back. You're everything. Please. I walked, the gala's glamour curdled to bile. The climax loomed. Our worlds colliding in a symphony of ruin. Spring unfurled in Boston like a reluctant confession. Dogwoods blushing pink against the grit. But my world was monochrome. Every shadow laced with Elias's echo. I threw myself into rehearsals for the spring concert. Notes of bulwark against the ache. But sleep evaded me. Nights replaying that coat room plea, his voice cracking on everything. Was it ploy or pain? Doubt was a venom, slow dripping, poisoning the memories. His laugh in the kitchen. The way he'd trace sonata curves on my palm during commutes. I blocked his number, but the brownstone haunted my routes. Its windows dark sentinels mocking my resolve. The scholarship verdict dropped mid-May. A curt email. Funding approved. Pending conduct review. The pending was a guillotine, and whispers amplified. Classmates side-eyeing. A prof pulling me aside. Hawthorne's influence is a double-edged sword, son. Step carefully. I burned with it, pride warring with panic. Ma's voice in my head. Don't borrow trouble, Alex. Keep your head down. But down was death. Up was Elias, and the pull was tidal. He didn't push. Text ceased after a final I'm here when you're ready. But Lena did. Her missives clipped ultimatums. Return materials. Sessions terminated. Materials. The sheet music he'd gifted. Inscribed to the fire in the keys H. I boxed them, unopened, but kept one photo. Us at Cape Cod, windswept and grinning, arms slung casual. It sat on my desk like a talisman or a wound. The concert was my gauntlet, Beethoven's Emperor, soloist spot I'd clawed for. House packed, lights a furnace. I sat at the Steinway, rented, anonymous, and let the allegro erupt, fingers flying furious, channeling the storm in my veins. The adagio slowed to a heartbeat, intimate as his whispers, and in the rondo's triumph, I saw him. Back row shadowed, eyes locked on me like a lifeline. Applause thundered, but I bolted backstage, adrenaline souring to dread. He waited in the green room, roses in hand, suit rumpled like he'd slept in it. "You were a god," he said, voice hoarse, thrusting the bouquet. I took it, thorns pricking, and the dam cracked. "Why are you here? To gloat? Save the sinking ship." He stepped closer, scent of cedar grounding me despite the whirl. "To apologize. Properly." The room emptied, us alone in fluorescent hum, and he spilled it, no varnish, raw as a first draft. Javier's merger play. Leaks to the board about indiscretions. Time to tank Elias's control. "He used you as bait, knowing it'd gut me. I shut it down. Fired Lena, bought out his shares. Cost me half my stake. But fuck the money. I choose you." Proof tumbled from his phone. Emails, NDAs, a resignation letter from Javier dated yesterday. It was never about time. It was buying us time. I searched his face, the lines etched deeper, and saw the cost. The empire chipped for a Southie kid's heart. "You idiot!" I choked, roses crumpling as I pulled him in. Our kiss salt-streaked and savage, months of fracture mending in that clutch. "I thought I'd lost you." He laughed, broken, holding tight. "Never. You're the coda I didn't know I needed." Reconciliation was tentative, a minuet of makeup sessions. Cautious coffees in neutral cafes, where we dissect the wreckage over lattes. "Betrayal's Javier's language," he said one afternoon in the common, ducks paddling oblivious. "But trust? That's ours to rewrite." I nodded, lacing fingers, the park's green a bomb. We rebuilt slow. Piano duets where hands overlapped without flinching. Nights at his place platonic but profound. Talking till dawn about futures unyoked from fear. Summer hummed in, internships calling. Mine a pittance at a community center, teaching kids scales. His a blur of boardroom battles. But we carved space. Road trip to the Berkshires, winding roads through hills velvet with dusk. A rented cabin where fireflies danced like errant notes. No grand gestures. Just us, grilling burgers on a porch swing. His head on my shoulder as stars wheeled overhead. "This," he murmured, "is the real composition." I kissed his temple, the ache easing to ache of fullness. Ours. Yet conflict simmers. It wouldn't be life without. The scholarship review dragged, committee probes veiled as chats. Digging into my mentorship, Elias's lawyers armored us. Statements, alibis, but stress frayed him, migraines felling the titan. I'd find him in the den, forehead to keys, silent sobs. "What if they take it all?" he'd whisper, and I'd counter with Rachmaninoff, coaxing him to play, our four hands a bulwark. "They can't touch this," I'd say, and mean the music, the man, the us. August crested with a bombshell. Javier's countermove, a smear piece in a tech rag. Hawthorne's air. Nepotism or novelty? Twisting our story into sleaze, implying coercion, power plays. It hit like a dissonant crash, my phone exploding with concern. Ma's frantic call. "Alex? What's this filth?" "That man's using you," I assured her. Half lies, heart pounding. But the damage rippled. Center kids asking sly questions, audition callbacks drying up. Elias raged in the kitchen that night, glass shattering against tile. "That bastard. I'll bury him." But fury ebbed to defeat, him slumping at the island. "Maybe he's right. I'm poison for you." I knelt, shards glinting like tears. "No. We're the antidote." We cleaned together, metaphor unspoken, then made love to it. Not rushed, but reverent, bodies a dialogue of forgiveness, his sighs my symphony. Dawn found us spent, tangled, the article's venom neutralized in sweat-slick skin. The climax crested in September, fall's first chill nipping the air as leaves turned pyre gold. The committee convened, a hearing in a stuffy oak-paneled room, suits droning like bad bass lines. I sat straight, Elias's ring, Simple silver, slipped on post-smear as vow, biting my finger. Testimonies flew. Profs praising my talent, but the chair leaning in, eyes beady. Mr. O'Connor, your relationship with donor Hawthorne raises ethical flags. Influence. I met it head-on, voice steady as his lessons. Not influence, investment. He saw me, not my zip code. And yeah, we fell in love. That's not ethics. That's human. Gasps rippled, but I pressed. The music, the growth, the man who'd chosen vulnerability over vaults. Elias testified after, suit impeccable but eyes raw. Alex isn't my project. He's my partner. And if that's a disqualification, strike me from your roles. Silence thrummed, then adjournment. We waited in the hall, hands clasped under benches, the city's pulse syncing with ours. Verdict came at dusk. Approved, with a footnote on transparency. Relief crashed, us spilling into the street, laughing manic under street lamps. We did it, I gasped, spinning him like a waltz. He pulled me close, forehead to mine. You did, my brave composer. But triumph's afterglow fades. The real test was the quiet after. Javier slunk off, merger dead, but scars lingered. Trust a fragile bridge. We crossed it daily. Therapy sessions he started for his ghosts, joint applications to queer arts funds. October found us at a small venue, my debut recital, original piece, Coda for Two, dedicated silently to him. He sat front row, tears tracking as notes wove our story. Storm to serenity, betrayal to bond. As curtains fell, applause a tide, I knew. This was the humanistic heart. Love not as fairy tale, but forge, hammering us finer through fire. Not perfect, but profoundly ours. November draped Boston in russet veils, the common a carpet of crunch underfoot, and our life settled into a cadence both ordinary and orchestral. Elias's board stabilized, his focus shifting to passion projects. A nonprofit for LGBTQ plus youth in the arts, seated with his divestments. Your fire sparked it, he'd say over breakfasts of oatmeal and ambitions, and I'd blush, stirring cinnamon like it could sweeten the surreal. Me, 23, co-chairing with a man who'd once been Forbes's wunderkind. We moved in together that month, his brownstone, my touches softening its edges. Scuffed sneakers by the door, a corkboard of our Polaroids thumbtacked in the hall. Ma visited once, eyeing the Steinway with awe, grilling Elias over coffee. You heard him, fancy pants, and Southey's got a long memory. He charmed her with Irish soda bread and stories of his queen's scrappiness, winning a wary nod by dessert. He's good for you, kid, she confided later, hugging fierce. Don't let fear fiddle the tune. But fear's a persistent motif, recurring in minor keys. My recital reviews glowed, O'Connor's voice, raw, resonant, but trolls lurked online, Javier's echoes in anonymous bile. Hawthorne's boy toy strikes gold. It stung, nights when I'd scroll too late, Elias pulling the phone away gentle. Their noise drowns nothing. Listen to us. He'd cue vinyl, Coltrane's ballads, slow and searching, and we'd sway in the kitchen, his chin on my crown, world reduced to bass and breath. Winter solstice brought the first real test post-victory. His 40th, 43? Time-blurred birthday, low-key at a jazz club in the South End, sax wailing like lost souls. Friends trickled in. His queer circle, artists and activists I'd warmed to, toasting with Manhattans. But midway, a call yanked him outside, board crisis, merger ghost rearing. He returned ashen, excusing early. In the car, silence thick. I probed. Talk. He gripped the wheel white-knuckled. They're pushing expansion. Means travel Asia months. I said no. Relief mixed with ache. And if you didn't? He glanced, eyes soft. Then I'd lose you to the road. Not worth it. Home, we argued, rare but volcanic. Don't quit for me? I snapped, pacing the den. That's the betrayal, clipping wings for love. He countered, voice rising. And leaving you here? That's the real cut. It escalated, words weapons, my insecurity, his control. A vase shattered, metaphor again, and we froze, breaths heaving. Then laughter bubbled, absurd, and we collapsed together, apologies in the shards. We're a mess, I gasped, his arms iron bands. The best kind, he murmured, sealing it with a kiss that tasted of growth. Spring 2026 bloomed with purpose. My grad app accepted, Juilliard, full ride, Elias's connections unspoken but ironclad. New York? He teased over packing boxes, helping fold hoodies. You'll hate the rats. I grinned, tackling him to the rug. Only if you're not there. He sobered, tracing my lip. Always. But seriously, teleport? Or condo in Brooklyn? We planned it fluid. Compromises a duet. His remote work, my city grind, weekends bridging the gap. Yet the humanistic core tested us anew in June, heat wave shimmering the asphalt as Ma's cancer diagnosis landed like a fermata, endless, suspending breath. Stage 3, pancreatic, the thief in the night. Southie hospital smelled of bleach and despair, her bed a battlefield. Elias was there before I called him. Flying in from a Boston pitch, hand on my back as doctors droned stats. Prognosis guarded, they said, but hope flickered, chemo trials. Ma took to him instant, dubbing him the piano prince, demanding encores during infusions. Play something lively, Elias. None of that weepy stuff. We tag-teamed vigils. Me holding her hand through nausea, him charming nurses with charm offensive, smuggling cannoli past dietary. Nights, in the Ronald McDonald house, exhaustion carved us hollow, but intimacy deepened. Whispers in the dark, his fears mirroring mine. What if I lose her? I'd choke, and he'd hold, steady as a bass line. You won't. We fight symphonies. Remember? Ma rallied that summer, colors returning, and in remission's glow, she cornered us post-discharge. You too solid. Don't squander it on what-ifs. Elias squeezed my knee under the diner table, eyes promising forever. Fall brought harvest. My Juilliard orientation, Manhattan's cacophony, a thrill ride after Boston's hush. Elias surprised with a sublet, cozy walk-up in the village, our names on the lease. Partners, he said, keys jingling, and we christened it with takeout and takeout. Low main and longing, bodies finally unhurried, mapping each other in lamplight glow. It was revelation. Love not just spark, but sustenance. His sighs my favorite aria. But climax echoes. December 2026. A year from our fracture, Javier resurfaced. Not venom, but olive branch. A letter, hand-delivered. Apologies. Ruined myself chasing ghosts. Wishing you both the melody I couldn't hear. Elias read it aloud, voice neutral, then burned it in the fireplace. Closure's his, not ours. I nodded, but it stirred sediment. Forgiveness a grace we'd earned. The year closed at a holiday showcase. My composition premiered. Resonance, movements for storm, shatter, solstice. Elias front row again, Ma beside him, beaming through chemo haze. As final chords faded, standing ovation swelling, I scanned for him. Spotting the ring's glint, his smile a beacon. Backstage he swept me up, Ma wolf whistling. My boys, she crowed, and in that crush, I knew the ending. Not tragic fanfare, but humanistic hush. Love as the quiet after, profound in its persistence. We drove home through snow-glazed streets, Ma dozing rear, Elias's hand in mine over the console. Happy? He asked, voice soft. I squeezed, the city a blur of light. In crescendo. With you. And so we played on. Imperfect players in life's grand score. Betrayal's sting softened to wisdom. Romance rooted deep as oak. In America's heart, where dreams clash with grit, we found our key. Not major triumph, but minor key grace. Human and whole.